Okay, imagine this. You're floating in the infinite dark of space, surrounded by the remnants of humanity's reach, dead satellites, rocket stages, and fragments spinning like cosmic shrapnel. Now imagine trying to catch one of these objects without turning it into a cloud of killer debris. That's the real-life challenge of space cleanup, and it's way more intense than anything you'll do in Hardspace. Shipbreaker. But wait, why does this matter? Because if we mess this up, we might lock ourselves out of space forever. Let's unpack this. Let's start with the fantasy. Games like Hardspace let you play the gritty blue-collar hero, slicing up derelict ships with lasers and explosives. It's visceral, satisfying, and totally fictional. But here's the kicker. In reality, blowing stuff up in space is the last thing you want to do. Why? Because every fragment you create could trigger the Kessler syndrome, a chain reaction of collisions that turns orbit into an impassable death zone. Personally, I think this is what makes these games so fascinating. They take a catastrophic risk and turn it into entertainment. But it also highlights how disconnected we are from the actual stakes of space debris. Now, let's talk about ClearSpace 1, the European Space Agency's mission to remove a defunct satellite. Their approach isn't about demolition. It's about surgical precision. They're sending a spacecraft to gently cage the target, stabilize it, and drag it into the atmosphere to burn up. No explosions, no lasers. Just meticulous robotics and a lot of math. What's interesting here is how this contrasts with the game's profit-driven salvage economy. In reality, this isn't about making money, it's about preventing disaster. Steimle, the project manager, put it perfectly. The goal is to preserve space for future generations. So why don't games reflect this? Maybe because carefully nudging a satellite into oblivion isn't as fun as blowing it to bits. But maybe we need both the fantasy and the reality to coexist. Orbital mechanics are another area where games surprise me. Titles like Hardspace actually nail the challenge of inertia and momentum, trying to stop a spinning hunk of metal in zero-G. That's not just game design, it's physics 101. And in real missions, miscalculating your approach speed could wreck a $100 million spacecraft. But here's the twist. In games, you can respawn after a mistake. In reality, a single error could create debris that endangers the International Space Station. This gap between risk and consequence is what bugs me most about the genre. Games thrive on trial and error. Space doesn't forgive errors. Let's zoom out. The bigger issue is that space cleanup isn't just a technical problem. It's a reflection of our values. We've treated orbit like a dumping ground for decades, prioritizing short-term gains over long-term sustainability. Games mirror this ethos by letting you profit from salvage, but they rarely grapple with the ethics. Meanwhile, real-world missions like ClearSpace, one force us to confront a darker truth. We're cleaning up a mess we're still making, and the longer we wait, the harder and more expensive it gets. What's the solution? Maybe it's not just better tech. It's rethinking how we use space altogether. What if launching a satellite required a cleanup bond to fund its future removal? That's a policy twist that could bridge the gap between the game's economy and reality's urgency. So here's my final thought. The contrast between these games and real debris removal isn't just about tech or physics. It's about storytelling. Games sell us a myth of control we can cut, blast, and profit our way through the cosmos. Reality sells a humbler tale. We're fragile guests in space, and survival demands restraint, not recklessness. The next time you fire up Hardspace, ask yourself, what's the real cost of turning orbital junk into a game? And more importantly, how do we fix the mess we're in?